What if I told you that the most swaggering, dominant, and like totally triumphant piece of music you probably ever heard actually kicks off with the singer having a full-blown panic attack?
I mean, it sounds completely backward, right?
It really does. Welcome back to another deep dive. We are so glad you're here with us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Today, our mission is, well, it's highly specific and surprisingly intense.
Extremely intense.
We are going to be mapping out the core emotional transitions of a song's content. And we're doing it by zooming in on this very brief, incredibly volatile lyric excerpt.
Right, we're pulling this from internet culture.
Exactly. It's a set of lyrics from the ATZ track called Bad. And we pulled this directly from a color-coded lyrics video uploaded to YouTube by a user named Jaguchi.
Now, I know that on the surface, analyzing the emotional weight of a fan-made, heavily phonetic transcription of a pop song, it might sound like, we're totally overthinking internet media.
Yeah, like we're taking a YouTube video way too seriously.
Right, but the emotional math happening in these 4 specific lines of text, it is actually staggering.
It really is.
It's basically a masterclass in psychological pacing.
So the goal for our time today is to meticulously map out how a few lines of text manage to take you, the listener, on this really jarring ride. From absolute raw vulnerability to this overwhelming sense of triumph.
Yeah, we aren't just looking at what these lyrics say.
No, we want to dig into the linguistic and the biological mechanics of how they actually manipulate your emotional state so effectively.
Exactly. Because to travel that far emotionally in the span of just a few seconds, it requires a very, very deliberate architecture.
You essentially have to bypass the listener's logic entirely, right?
You do. You have to hit the nervous system directly.
So, okay, let's unpack this and jump straight into the inciting incident. The opening lines of this excerpt, they hit you immediately with this absolute unfiltered sense of panic.
They really do.
The text starts with, "Iters, dida," and then it just locks into this frantic repeating phrase, "Udajajeka."
Yeah, the repetition is key there.
Right. And for those listening, that translates roughly to this stuttering, fragmented attempt at speech followed by, "What do I do? I don't know either. What do I do?"
It is the establishment of a baseline emotional state, and that state is just sheer helplessness.
Like stepping onto a stage and forgetting all your choreography.
Exactly like that. Notice that repetition of, oh, what do I do? This isn't just a stylistic choice. I mean, it's an incredibly accurate representation of cognitive overload.
Okay, but here is where I kind of have to push back on the framing right out of the gate.
Okay, go for it.
This song is literally titled BAD. And, in pop culture, the bad boy or the bad girl archetype, they usually kick the door down, right?
You're right. They own the room.
Yeah. They wear leather, they have endless swagger, they are totally untouchable. So why on earth would you lead a track with stuttering confusion?
It's a fair question.
I mean, why lead with, "I don't know what to do," instead of just absolute undeniable confidence? It feels, honestly, completely counterintuitive to the entire genre.
What's fascinating here is that it is counterintuitive, but it's a structural necessity for the emotional arc they're building.
How so?
Well, think about it. If you start a narrative at 100% confidence, you literally have nowhere to go.
Oh, because you're already at the peak.
Right, you're just hovering at the ceiling. By starting at 0, by starting with a complete loss of footing, the listener is primed for this massive upward trajectory.
So the panic is basically a setup.
Exactly. But beyond the narrative structure, there is this deep biological realism to the opening that makes it so compelling.
Wait, what do you mean by biological realism?
So when a human being experiences a sudden shock or like an overwhelming surge of anxiety, the brain's working memory essentially gets hijacked by the amygdala.
The amygdala, that's the fear center of the brain, right?
Exactly. You are pulled out of your normal resting state, what neuroscientists call the default mode network, and you get slammed into the salience network.
And the salience network is what? Scanning for threats?
Yes. It scans for immediate, right now threats. And during that sudden shift, you literally cannot process complex, nuanced thoughts.
Because your brain is too busy trying to figure out if you need to, like, run away or fight.
Yes, exactly. The language centers temporarily stall out. The brain just can't build new, complex sentences, so it hits refresh on a primary distress signal.
Oh, wow. So that looping, what do I do? I don't know, what do I do?
It's the auditory equivalent of a system glitch. The intellect is temporarily paralyzed.
That makes so much sense.
Right. The narrator is admitting right out of the gate that they have been hit by an emotion or a presence so forceful that their cognitive functions have just crashed.
Okay, so the narrator isn't fundamentally weak. They're just like biologically offline for a second.
Yes, offline is a great way to put it.
But that system glitch, it doesn't last long at all. The transition out of that panic is
A
immediate.
very fast pivot.
Yeah, the lyrics pivot straight from that stuttering fear into which translates to the other person falling for me and floundering or struggling helplessly.
Right.
So we jump instantly from I don't know what to do to, oh, wait, you are the one struggling.
And this is the first major emotional transition in the text. It completely flips the locus of control.
You know, it really reminds me of those superhero origin stories where someone suddenly discovers they have telekinesis.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like imagine waking up, reaching for your coffee cup, and you accidentally blow a massive hole in the wall.
Your first reaction is going to be pure terror.
Right. You don't know how to hit the brakes. The panic in that first line isn't about being intimidated by the other person. It's the shock of realizing your own sudden magnetic power.
Yes.
You are terrified of your own gravity.
That is the exact mechanism at play here. In psychology, we talk about internal versus external locus of control.
Okay, break that down for us.
So, in the first line, the narrator's locus of control is entirely externalized. They feel acted upon by this overwhelming situation. What do I do? Implies the environment is in charge.
Like the situation is happening to them.
Exactly. But the moment they look outward and observe the subject of the song floundering against this attraction, the locus of control becomes internal.
Oh, I see. They realize they're the ones causing the environment to spin.
Yes. The transition from what do I do to seeing the other person floundering is the exact second the narrator stops fighting their own momentum.
Wow.
The fear of falling disappears when you realize you are the one generating the gravity. They see the other person helpless against the attraction they are projecting, and the power dynamic fundamentally flips in real time.
Okay, but if the power dynamic is flipped,
Yeah.
and the narrator realizes they have the upper hand, you would assume the next logical step is this supreme articulate dominance.
You'd think so, yes.
Right, like you realize you have the power, so you deliver a smooth, confident manifesto. But that is not what happens here.
No, not at all.
Instead of becoming articulate,
Yeah.
the lyrics completely fracture.
Yeah.
We get these highly complex, almost chaotic phonetic structures. We get lines like,
The language itself just begins to break down. Logic officially leaves the building.
It sounds like this dizzying, rhythmic cascade. It's essentially a phonetic soup.
Yeah, phonetic soup is exactly what it is.
And I know we are looking at a phonetic transcription from a YouTube video, which kind of adds its own layer of absurdity to this.
It does, yeah.
But the emotional effect of reading or hearing those specific chaotic syllables, it's really profound. It feels like a linguistic optical illusion.
How do you mean?
Like, imagine standing in the middle of a really crowded basement club. The music is way too loud, the bass is vibrating your rib cage, and the strobe lights are just blurring everything together.
Okay, I can picture that.
You aren't processing individual conversations anymore, right? You just feel the raw, chaotic pulse of the room.
Is that chaotic language a deliberate reflection of surrendering to the intensity?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That chaos is actually a highly accurate reflection of a mind that has completely surrendered to intense sensory input.
So the brain is just tapped out.
We just talked about how sudden fear hijacks the brain. Well, intense attraction and sudden adrenaline do the exact same thing to the prefrontal cortex.
Remind us what the prefrontal cortex does again.
It's the part of your brain responsible for syntax, grammar, and building perfectly structured sentences.
Oh, so realizing you have the power doesn't make you a better speaker. It actually overloads you even further.
Exactly. Blood flow literally shifts away from the logical centers of the brain and moves toward sensory processing and motor functions.
Wow. Literally physically shifts.
Yes. The brain stops building logical sentences because, frankly, logic is too slow for what's happening. Let's look at the actual sounds of that breakdown, though. The toyonche, it is really bouncy, it's aggressive, and it is super disorienting.
Linguistically, it is really heavy on plosives and hard rhythmic breaks.
Plosives.
Yeah, plosives are sounds that require a sudden release of air, like D and T and hard K sounds.
Okay, so they hit hard.
Right. When you string them together without clear syntactic meaning, it forces the listener's brain to stop trying to comprehend a message, and instead you just react to the percussive impact of the syllables.
So you are engaging with the rhythm on a purely physical level, not an intellectual one.
Exactly. You feel it in your body, not your mind.
Which perfectly sets up the next line.
Yep.
Because bursting right out of that percussive, phonetic chaos,
Yeah.
we get slammed with this hyper-specific sensory input.
Yes, the transition here is wild.
The text transitions into, you knew that she fake trembling in plates, blooming with fragrance, spice.
Imbling, fragrance, spice. Notice the specific evolutionary pathways of the senses being invoked here. It's so visceral.
We have moved entirely out of the cognitive realm and straight into the physical body.
We went from, I don't know, to you're floundering, to just pure, raw physical sensation. But why specifically fragrance and spice? Why not like sight or sound?
This is where the neurobiology of sensation gets incredibly fascinating. So your senses of sight, sound, and touch, they all route through the thalamus.
The thalamus, which acts like the brain's central switchboard.
Right, exactly. The thalamus receives the visual or auditory data, processes it, and then sends it to the cortex for logical interpretation. It essentially filters the world for you.
Like a bouncer at a club.
Exactly like a bouncer.
Yeah.
But olfaction, your sense of smell or fragrance, is the only sense that bypasses the thalamus entirely.
Wait, really? It skips the bouncer?
It skips the bouncer. It has a direct, unfiltered neurological cable straight to the amygdala and the hippocampus.
Which are the emotion and memory centers.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So you don't think about a smell or a taste like spice. You just immediately feel it. Yes, instantly. When the lyricist, or, the phonetic transcriptionist in this case, lands on words like fragrance and spice, they are mimicking a complete biological override.
It just bypasses all of the logical filtering mechanism.
Exactly. The emotion has transitioned from internal panic to external realization to a complete and total sensory explosion.
It's just too much to handle.
The feeling of this attraction, this sudden power, is simply too large for grammar to contain. So the text just devolves into the only things the brain can still process: raw kinetic energy, smell, and taste.
It is a total surrender to the physical moment. But as a listener, or even as someone experiencing this in real life, you can't sustain that level of sensory chaos forever, right?
No, absolutely not.
You can't just exist in a permanent state of trembling, fragrance, and spice
Well,
without completely burning out your nervous system. The brain eventually demands a resolution.
and that biological necessity for resolution drives us directly into the climax of this lyrical fragment.
The final destination.
Yes, the chaos has to crystallize into a definitive state.
So what does this all mean? Well, that brings us to the final line of the excerpt. Echarshong e diko.
That last word is everything.
It really is. The entire chaotic journey hinges on that final, borrowed English word, hiri. Victory.
Victory. It is such a definitive, heavy anchor to drop at the end of this sequence.
We have literally gone from a stuttering, what do I do, to planting a flag on top of a mountain and declaring victory.
It's a massive shift.
But based on everything we've just unpacked,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like a victory that was won through like a calculated logical strategy.
No, it wasn't. It was won through synthesis.
Synthesis.
Yeah, and this raises a really important point about how we process cognitive dissonance and emotional tension, both in art and in life.
Right.
When we experience that kind of overwhelming sensory input, our initial instinct is usually to fight it. We want to regain control. We want to find the right words and stabilize the syntax of our lives.
We basically want to stop the trembling.
Right. We want to feel safe again. But this text suggests that the path to true victory doesn't come from suppressing the chaos or running from the overwhelm.
So what does it come from?
Conquering the chaos in this context doesn't mean organizing it. It means becoming it.
Oh, wow.
The initial panic was just the catalyst. The realization of their own gravity was the turning point. But that sensory surrender, the willingness to let the language break down, to experience the trembling and the spice that was the actual battle.
So coming out the other side of that psychological surrender is the victory.
Precisely. We seek out these rapid emotional transitions in music because they act as safe threat simulations.
Like riding a roller coaster.
Exactly. We want to experience the sheer terror of cognitive overload followed by the euphoric release of resolution, all within the span of 15 seconds.
It's an emotional workout.
It reminds us that our own moments of feeling entirely out of control can eventually resolve into a state of assimilation and triumph.
The efficiency here is just staggering. I mean, in 4 lines, we mapped a complete psychological reset.
It's incredibly dense.
You have panic and vulnerability, then the realization of internal locus of control, then the breakdown of syntax and complete sensory surrender, and finally, absolute victory.
It really completely changes how you listen to this kind of music, doesn't it?
It totally does. You might just be passively nodding your head to the beat, but under the hood, the structure of the song is dragging your nervous system through a perfectly engineered emotional whiplash.
It is actively manipulating your physiological baseline. It pulls you into that state of vulnerability first, so that the eventual triumph feels earned on a biological level, not just a narrative one.
Which brings us to the real takeaway for you, listening right now. We have spent this time analyzing the core emotional transitions of a song, watching how a complete cognitive breakdown literally paves the way for a declaration of victory.
Right.
But we want you to take this framework out of the realm of pop music and bring it into your own reality.
Because the mechanics are exactly the same, whether you are analyzing a lyric or navigating a sudden shift in your own life.
Exactly. Think about the last time you experienced a sudden, massive shift in influence or responsibility.
Like a promotion or something.
Yeah, maybe you got thrust into a leadership role you weren't expecting, or a relationship suddenly deepened, or you were handed an opportunity that just felt way too big for you.
We've all been there.
Your first reaction was probably an amygdala hijack. Your logic failed, your brain stopped making perfectly structured sentences, and you just looped, "What do? I don't know what to do."
And we have been conditioned to view that cognitive overload as a sign of failure.
Right, like, we aren't good enough.
We think that because we are panicking, we must not be ready for the power we've been handed.
But what this deep dive shows us is that the breakdown isn't the opposite of the victory. It is the prerequisite for it.
It's the required first step.
The next time you find yourself in that state of absolute sensory and emotional chaos where you feel like you are just processing raw kinetic energy and your perfectly structured plans have devolved into phonetic soup, ask yourself a different question.
What's the question?
Are you actually failing, or is your brain just clearing the slate?
That's a great way to look at it. That panic might just be the necessary momentum building right before you realize that you are the one generating the gravity.
Exactly.
The sensory chaos isn't defeat. It is just what it feels like right before you flip the power dynamic.
You have to be willing to let the syntax of your comfort zone break down. You have to experience the trembling before you can reach the resolution.
Yeah, you have to go through it to get past it.
So keep that in mind next time the strobe lights of your life get a little too bright and the music gets a little too loud. Don't fight the cognitive overload. Let the chaos run its course.
It's the only way to that final victory.
Thank you so much for joining us on this highly specific, incredibly focused deep dive today. We love taking these wild, intense fragments of culture and figuring out exactly the mechanisms of how they make us tick.
And keep looking closely at the media you consume. There's always a deeper psychological architecture waiting to be uncovered, even in the places you'd least expect to find it.
Very true. And until next time, embrace the whiplash, surrender to the sensory overload, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.